Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're tackling a big one, Eric Ries's game-changing book, The Lean Startup. It's basically a manual for how to build smarter in a world that's, well, pretty uncertain.
Okay, so picture this. You've got this killer idea. You get a team together, you start building like crazy, right? You're absolutely convinced your vision is going to change the world. But then it all starts to get messy, people aren't talking to each other, things are breaking down, and worst of all, you're totally ignoring the one thing that matters, what your actual users think. Sound familiar? Yeah, it's a super common story for entrepreneurs.
So what if there was a way to avoid that whole mess? A way to take all that chaos and turn it into a clear plan. A way to actually manage that crazy, nail-biting uncertainty that comes with any new business.
And this is the key problem that Eric Ries points to. He says the issue isn't a bad idea, it's using the wrong playbook. The old-school management rules, they were built for predictable companies. For a startup, they just fall apart. And that's exactly where the Lean Startup comes in. It's a totally new approach designed from the ground up for this new era of innovation.
All right, so let's get into the guts of it. At the very core of the Lean Startup is this simple but seriously powerful feedback loop. You can think of it as the engine that makes the whole thing run.
And it works pretty much exactly like it sounds. First, you build something, a version of your product. Then, you measure what happens when you put it out there. How do customers react? You get real, actual data. And finally, you learn from that data. And that's where you have to make a choice. Do we stick with the plan, or do we need to make a big change? And listen, the whole point here is speed. But not just building fast, it's about learning fast. So you get it, right? You're not just building stuff to build stuff. You're building to learn. Every little thing you make, every feature, every ad, it's like a science experiment. You're testing a guess you have about your business. And Ries has this great name for it, validated learning. It's not just learning, it's learning that's backed up by real-world proof.
So the big question is, how do you learn as fast as you possibly can? Well, for that first build step in the loop, you need a special tool. It's called the minimum viable product, or as you've probably heard, the MVP.
Now hold on, because a lot of people get this wrong. An MVP is not just a crappy, broken version of your final product. Nope. Think of it like this. What's the absolute smallest experiment you can run to start getting real feedback from actual people? That's your MVP. It's all about getting the most learning for the least amount of work.
And the story of Groupon is a perfect example of this. Before they were this massive company, they were actually a totally different idea that was failing. So to test this new concept for group deals, what did they do? Did they build a huge fancy website? No way. They literally just used a simple WordPress blog, posted a 2-for-1 pizza deal, and when people bought it, they manually emailed them a PDF. They only sold like 20 coupons, but that was it. That was the proof, the validated learning that told them they had a billion-dollar idea on their hands.
Okay, so you've got your MVP out there, you're learning things, and now you've got a really big decision to make. The data's coming in, the results from your experiment are on the table, and it is crunch time.
This is really the moment of truth. What happens if all the data tells you people don't want what you made? That your big, brilliant idea was, well, just wrong? This is probably one of the toughest, most gut-wrenching moments for any founder.
But in the lean startup world, this isn't seen as failure. It's called a pivot. And a pivot is not just randomly changing your mind. It's a smart, strategic change of direction based on what you've just learned. Honestly, it takes a lot of guts. It's about being brave enough to say, hey, our first plan didn't work, and seeing that so-called failure is just more data that's pointing you toward the right path.
And what's cool is that a pivot can look like a lot of different things. Maybe you find out that one little feature you built is the only thing people really love. So you zoom in and make that the whole product. Or maybe you realize your product is great, but you've been selling it to the wrong people entirely. The point is, every pivot is basically a brand new guess, a new hypothesis that you then go out and test all over again with the loop.
All right, so let's say you've gone through the loop. You've pivoted, maybe a few times, and now you've finally landed on something that people actually genuinely want. Awesome. But now comes the next big challenge. How do you grow this thing sustainably? The Lean Startup talks about 4 main engines of growth, things like word of mouth or people coming back to buy again, and here's the big idea. Real, sustainable growth isn't about getting a big article written about you one time. It's about building systems where your existing customers naturally bring you new customers. It's a cycle.
Let's just take one of those engines for a second, viral growth.
if you want to go viral, there's one number that matters more than anything else. It's called the viral coefficient. It's super simple, really. It just measures, on average, how many new people each of your current customers brings into the fold.
And if you can get that number, that coefficient, to be bigger than 1, you've basically hit the jackpot. Think about it. Every customer you get brings in more than one new customer. That's when you get that insane exponential growth. That's the dream, right? The Holy Grail.
Okay, all of this brings us to what I think is the biggest mindset shift of the whole book. It's the philosophical heart of the lean startup. It completely changes the number one question that every creator, every innovator should be asking. You see, for centuries, the big question was always, can we build this? It was an engineering problem. Can we make the car go faster? Can we build the bridge stronger? But what Ries says is that today, we can build almost anything. The real question isn't can we build it anymore, it's should we build it? Or even better, does anyone actually care if we build it?
And this really gets to the core of it all. The whole point of the lean startup is to stop the single biggest waste of time and money in the modern world, building something that nobody wants. All that effort, all that passion, all that code, wasted on a perfectly built product that completely misses the mark with customers. So really, that's the challenge the lean startup leaves you with. It's a call to action for real. It's saying, don't just sit on your idea. Don't spend 6 months building something in the dark. Instead, ask yourself this one simple question. What's the most important thing I can learn about my idea today? And what's the absolute fastest, simplest way I can start learning it right now?